Hello, boys and girls. Yes, it's Nicko here with you on Metal Sticks with my dear co-host, Mr. Dave Frangioni. Listen, leave a mumbo-jumbo message for me, anything you fancy. I may get back to you, but you never know, do you?
Metal fans, are you ready? Welcome to
Metal Sticks,
the show you've been waiting for. We celebrate heavy metal. Across our episodes, we're unleashing interviews with icons. Our Roll with Nicko, a deep dive into the stories behind each snare in Nicko's collection, as well as other Iron Maiden memorabilia. And to wrap it all up, Wear, Tear, and Care, where Nicko shares his tips to keep your drums sounding and working at their best. Hello and welcome to Metal Sticks. I'm David Frangioni, CEO of Modern Drummer and co-host with the esteemed metal legend himself, Nicko McBrain.
Thank you. Ta-da!
So this is the first episode of season 1 of Metal Sticks. And on every episode, you guys can look forward to a subject that we're going to interview, a dear friend of Nicko or me or both of us. But this is the first episode. So guess who the interview subject is?
Wouldn't be wild that
Yeah, you raised your hand, so you're the guy. What have you been up to since that really almost shocking day, quite frankly? I mean, you and I have been best friends for a long time, and it came out of the blue for me, so I can speak for the world. When you played your last show with Maiden live in São Paulo.
Yep.
First of all, what kind of happened that you felt like, this is going to be my last show?
You know, touring, the playing wasn't the problem for me. You know, playing 2 hours, a show every other night with Maiden, that wasn't the issue. It was just getting to me with the travel and not really having days off as such. We would have the odd day here and there, especially if we did 2 back-to-back shows. We'd have a travel day, then a day off, a full day. And my body was just saying to me, it's time to hang it up, Nick. Plus the little handicap that I had from a couple of years ago. They're doing a 50th anniversary tour the rest of this year, and then there's some more shows next year. So I thought, this would be a great time. The last show at São Paulo, which was phenomenal. The guys, there was on a mixed emotion. There was sadness, but then there was joy. So, we finally got rid of him.
Well, it's 42 years,
42
right?
years later, yeah. And, it's been phenomenal. And so that night was completely, it was a spectacular night for me, because when I came to the stage, all of the backline crew, they were all in a line backstage. I don't think anybody really, you saw it on a bit of Maiden's video, and they were all kind of clapping and giving me an ovation before I'd
final salute.
Yeah, final salute, which was beautiful. And then, of course, at the end of the night, there was 50,000 plus fans in that arena or that stadium that just melted my heart. In fact, I remember I kind of got down, grabbed my ankles. Well, kind of, I was going to touch my toes, but, at my age, it's a bit difficult. So I slid down my legs to stop my crying. I thought, should I break down and, let the fans see me? And I thought, no, be strong, And so then I kind of got up and said goodbye and buggered off pretty quick. But it was an amazing moment. And, what a way to end 42 years of playing with, if not the top band in the world, with my brothers for 42 years,
No, it's incredible.
It was great.
So what has life looked like since December?
Yeah, when I got home, because there was a lot of emotion, and I just took Christmas and New Year, and it was just family, which was really nice. And then, I got to feeling like, I'm sad, but I'm happy, because it was just getting a little bit too much for me.
And the fact is, you're still in the band.
Well, yes, I'm still part of the family. We're still all good mates. There's no bad blood, no animosity. It's all cool. And, I wish Simon the best. I know he's got big shoes to fill. I may say so myself, boys and girls. Anyway, it's not an easy thing for him to step into. I have my unique style, and he has his. So, I mean, one of the biggest things I'm thinking about is how's he going to go from a 6-piece kit to an 11? Don't even think about it, Simon. Just play your 6-piece.
But, that's what has given us now the opportunity, with your being off the road for the first time in many decades, that we can do this podcast, that we can do Metal Sticks.
Yeah.
And we can bring what you've learned playing the drums since what year did you start playing the drums?
It was 1962 when I started playing. I was born in 52.
And you were a professional starting in the 70s.
Yeah, I went pro on my 21st birthday.
Okay, so all of these years of learning, we're going to share with you guys what Nicko's experienced and learned in metal music. I know the beginning of your career wasn't metal with Pat Travers and other artists.
Yeah.
But these last 42 years have definitely been metal.
Yeah.
Maiden's as metal as it gets. And there's so much to learn, both being in a band and being from a drummer's perspective, but not everything you learn in being in a metal band has to do with drumming. It has to do with a lot of other things, with how you rehearse, how you prepare, how you collaborate, how you come up with parts, how you just serve the metal world, as a band member.
The basics are the same no matter what the music you're playing, in terms of how you structure your rehearsals, how you talk to each other, how you plan each section of the music, how you put your stage set together, how you put your set of music together, what works and what doesn't. So that initial art, if you like, or part of your art, is it doesn't change. You could be in a funk band or you could be in a pop band. The dynamics are the same in that respect.
So all the mechanics of what you have to prepare and what you have to do don't change by genre.
Not really, no. I mean, obviously, the metal is a lot more power, so you have to learn to play with dynamics within the structure of your music, which is loud. Metal's loud, played fast, quite fast. Depending whether you're a thrash band or not, or speed metal. Maiden's neither of those, but I had to learn how to adapt my playing and still use dynamics within it. Whereas if you're playing, say, like a level 42, for instance, that sort of funky soul music, there's still dynamics, but they're more noticeable, if you see what I'm saying. So that there's an art to learning where you open up and you punch it, like what we used to say, let's open the show with 3 or 4 songs, one after another, but get them in the face, and then we'll calm down a bit.
Let's take our audience through your history, just high level, topically, of drum companies.
Okay.
From the beginning to today, and then when we start going through the individual drums, it'll all kind of make sense.
You're not asking too much, are you?
That's why I said high level. Otherwise, it's the encyclopedia of drum companies. Of course, but let's go high level.
Well, let's start at the beginning. My first drum set was a Broadway John Gray kit, and it was a 3-piece. It was a bass drum, snare drum, and a 10-inch tom-tom. And the tom-tom was secured to the bass drum by a bracket. It didn't have a tom mount as such. And I built that kit up. I put it into a 4-piece, and I've always loved cymbals. I've just, gongs and cymbals, they're such a wonderful color and texture to any drum set. My first drum set I bought and I purchased when I was 16 was a Sonor, and it was a Sonor teardrop. They came up with this teardrop kit in the 60s, and my father loaned me £100, £100, which is probably then about $200 or $300, and I bought it off a bloke in a pub in Enfield in North London. So that was my very first purchase. Then I wanted to buy a Ringo kit, so I went to a shop called Top Gear in Denmark Street with the intention of buying a Ludwig Super Classic. I walked into this shop, and at the bottom of the shop was a Heyman kit. And I'd never seen a Heyman kit. I didn't even know about a Heyman drum set. And it was a British guy called George Heyman that built these drums. So I looked at this kit and I went, holy moly, this looks like a spaceship. So I asked the guy, could I play it? Because normally, in the 60s, you couldn't play the drum set. They wouldn't let you, no way, mate, So he said, here's a pair of sticks. So I put a £5 note deposit for this kit, and I bought the Heyman kit. So that was the second kit I bought. So I had to part exchange the Sonar, and I had to go and get an HP agreement, which was a hire purchase agreement, like a finance. So I bought the Heyman kit, and that recorded Downtown Flyers, Red Card with Streetwalkers in 75 and 76. Then I went with, actually it was a silver Heyman. I only made 3 colors, black, silver and gold. And the guy that built Carl Palmer's stainless steel kit painted that drum set for me.
Really?
Yeah, same guy. I can't remember his name.
Was it Lowe?
I think so, yeah. He worked in...
Mike Lowe.
Yeah. And he painted it white.
Not the person that did the dentistry.
No.
The person that actually designed the kit. Yeah, that was Mike Lowe, I believe.
So he painted this kit for me, so it's white. And I still have that kit today. So anyway,
amazing.
So moving on from the Heyman kit, when I joined Travers, he turns around, he said, I want you to play a big drum kit. And I said, well, what kind of big drum kit? So I want you to play 2 bass drums. And I went, no chance, pal. So I go and get a Sonar catalogue from this local drum shop, and I opened it, and there was a Sonar XK9212 series drum set, and it was a concert kit, and it was silver, and he had 2 bass drums, 9 tom-toms, and a snare drum.
Wow.
And I've gone, whoa, that's beautiful. That's great. I can imagine that with one bass drum. Right? So I remember phoning Horst Link up and trying to get a deal with Sonar, because I was playing with Pat by now, obviously, So
this would have been your first endorsement?
My first endorsement.
What did he say?
And I'm on the phone. I got through to Horst, and I'll never forget it. He turns around and he said, so who are you playing with? I said, a guy called Pat Travers. He said, who? I said, he's a really amazing Canadian guy. He's going to be really big. I said, we're playing in a trio. It's a power trio. He wants me to get one of your drum sets, which is, I first bought a Sonar kit. So that was my passion. And he said, what do you want from me? I said, I want you to give me a drum kit. And he turned and said, let me ask you a question. Do Rolls-Royce give their cars away? And I went, I don't think they do. And he said, that's my answer. And he put the phone down on me. So anyway, I got a deal through a guy called Gordon Williamson, who was a dealer for Sonar in England, out of Birmingham. And I had to make a deal with him. He sold me the drum set, that 9212 kit, for £600. But I had to give him, here's the thing. He turned around and said to me, you have to give me your Heyman kit. And I went, I'm not giving you my Heyman kit. Why do you want me to give you that? Because then you don't use it again. I said, well, I'm not going to pay £600 to you, Gordon, to not use the Sonar kit. No, you're not having my kit. I said, I'll give you £100 for it, to not have to give it to you. And I never did get, he said, no problem. But it was, obviously, he wanted to take that drum set and flog it, So then I was with Sonar for 19 years. Then I went with Premier in 1992.
But in between the first story and the 19 years with Sonar, you did get an endorsement.
I did, yes.
Once you joined Maiden, then you got an endorsement.
I had a deal in place with other Sonar distributors in England. And then once I joined Maiden, I called up the Sonar company and I spoke to Karl-Heinz Menzel.
Is that the kit you played with Maiden?
Yes. So that's a 12-piece. There was only one bass drum. Sonar had to make me, for the 6, 8, and 10, 12, they had to make me 2 extra high stands to go on that drum set, because I always played with a high hi-hat.
Crazy.
And I had to get over those 2, the hi-hat, because I didn't want to go down low to accommodate the shorter version of those stands.
So even with Pat Travers, that was your configuration.
That particular setup recorded Peace of Mind in the studio. Then when we went on tour, I went to a double-headed kit. Okay. And I used that on the Peace of Mind court. And then after I sold that kit, and I wish I hadn't have done, but I did.
So you kept the concert tom kit, didn't use it, used the double-head, then sold the double-headed
for live. And then I went back and used the that same configuration for Power Slave. The Power Slave Tour, I upgraded from that regular size, like so 6x6, 8x, I think it was 8x8, and then 10x8 or 10x9, 12x9, 13x10, that sort of that was that kind of size, regular shell sizes. I know you in the US, boys and girls, that's another thing. We do diameter before length. So it's a 14 by the depth of the drum, not the other way around. So I've never been able to understand why you do that. Anyway, so I went to power toms. So they were square sizes, although that power toms now are 1 inch shorter than a diameter. So I used that. And I was with Sonar, as I said, for 19 years before things went a little bit AWOL with Sonar. And I think Hohner bought them out, and Horst Link relinquished his ownership of Sonar.
I see. And then you went to Premier.
Then I went to Premier, yeah.
And so when you went to Premier, how long were you with Premier?
Premier, 22 years.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Almost as long as you were with Sonar the first time around. And then you left Premier and went back to Sonar?
I went back with Sonar, and the reason I left Premier was the powers that be decided they didn't want to make British drums anymore.
So Premier kind of went away.
Premier wanted,
so you didn't have a choice.
Yeah, they wanted their shells to be made in Taiwan, and they would construct the drums in England. And I said, well, that's not really made in England, is it? Then I went to Sonar with my hat in my hand to Karl Heinz and said, look, can I come back? And they said, yeah, okay. And that was in 2015.
So?
And we were getting ready to do the Book of Souls album. And we knew that had a theme of gold to it. So I asked Sonar if they would make me a gold drum kit. Didn't ask for much, did I?
And they did?
And they made me a beautiful drum
see
set.
that kit.
Yeah.
This is Book of Souls.
Book of Souls kit, yeah.
So then you leave Sonar, though?
Well, that lasted 4 years. I had a 4-year contract.
Okay.
Which was sad for me because things changed. Karl Heinz decided it was time for him to retire. So I had my go-to guy from way back in the 70s, because I had a really great relationship with Karl. I still do. We still text one another, and it was a family. When it changed in 1992, it was messy, and there's another long story. We may get into another episode of Metal Sticks. We can tell this story later. But when I went back with Sonar, I had a 4-year agreement with them, and we arranged to have my signature snare drum. And over 4 years, I didn't get it released. There was a lot of politics involved, and I'm not one for that. I'm a word of mouth guy. I don't need a contract, but they did that particular 4-year stretch. I decided with the way the company was going and Karl leaving, all these different people came in from Honor, and it just didn't feel right for me, and so I put my notice in. And there's reasons for that, other than the fact that I was supposed to have my own snare drum, a metal snare and a wood snare.
So you didn't have either?
No, they kept reneging on it, and I thought, well, you know what? And that leads me on to British Drum Company. Now, Keith Keogh was making drums for me at Premier. So that's how my relationship with British Drum Company started.
Okay, so in your tenure with Premier, Keith was there.
Yes, Keith was there for the last 4 years.
He leaves and goes and starts British Drum Company?
Yeah, he started
his company?
Yeah, and he went into partnership.
And how did you reconnect with him?
Well, they asked me if I'd go to use British Drum Company before I went with Sonar. And I said, well, look, your drums are brilliant. Absolutely amazing, cold press shells and the way they make the attention to detail, which is still today above and beyond. They're on a level par. I think I put them in a level par with Sonar. They didn't have any hardware, and that's making a great drum is an art, yes, but there's many companies that can make great shells. But it's what puts it all together and what holds it all. As you can tell from my drum set, I've got 10 cymbal stands around it. and a gong behind me.
So when you got out of Sonar to take another look at British Drum, they had hardware.
Yes, there was a program called Casino Hardware, and that was introduced in 2020 at the NAMM show, pre-pandemic, of course.
Oh.
And then obviously with the pandemic, it poured everything, as we all know, in industry and business. I decided to say to the guys, look, let's go with it. And I'm glad I did, because we're making some incredibly wonderful drums. And now with the Casino hardware and the Palladium hardware on the drums, it's immense. I mean, who would have thought putting dice on each section of your drum stand, of your cymbal stand, your hi-hat stand even? What a genius. A guy called Alan Kitchen came up with this incredible idea. I was like completely blown away by this hardware,
Amazing. So they really turned a corner.
They turned a corner.
And it's fair to say they're doing a Nicko signature snare.
Oh, yeah, two of them.
So, Nicko, our first episode from your incredible snare drum collection. And I just love the stories behind these snare drums. And as I'm walking and talking with you through your snare drum collection, and my first instinct is, oh, if only these snare drums could talk. And then I hear them talking. Oh, wait, that's you.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's right. Because you never stop talking about these snare drums.
No,
and I love it because there's so many great stories. So
yes,
let's start with this snare drum. This is 86 or 87 with Maiden.
Yeah.
And first of all, the finish, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this finish is so freaking cool. It's not white.
No.
It's got some glitter or something.
Yeah.
So what's the story?
Well, it's got a Zeralic, I think is the word. What we used to call it, glitter, obviously.
Zeralic. That's the highbrow term.
Highbrow, boys
Yes,
and girls. You've just learned something.
Yes, that's a fancy term, but it's really cool looking. And
Yeah.
and the story you were telling me was so awesome of the ice set and all that.
Absolutely.
So, fill us in.
So
Take it back.
the Seventh Sun tour. This was born from the Frankfurt Trade Show back in '86, before we started the Seventh Sun tour. I had an artist's impression of the stage set, which was, if you boys and girls are fans, those that you are that are not or don't know Maiden, we had like ice sculptures, and there was lots of blues and watery backdrops and stuff. It was basically the album artwork set to the live show.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it was brilliant. There were these ice sculptures. They weren't made of ice, obviously, but so I wanted something that looked like ice. So I armed with this artist impression, I go to the Frankfurt Music Show back in, I think it was '86. It was before the tour, obviously. And I went into the Sonar booth, and there in the corner on their display was a Sonar Performer drum set with a very similar finish to this on it. And I was with Elizabeth Link, who's Horst's wife, and I said to her, that is the finish I want on my new drum set, because they would design the drum set prior to a tour and work out what kind of color schemes and all that malarkey. So anyway, I had this artwork in my pocket, and I said, this is perfect. And Horst came out of this meeting, and he turned around and he said, "Hello, Nicko, how are you doing?" I said, "Oh, Horst, I want that finish right there on my new drum set." And he went, "No." I'm like, well, that says it all, right? So he said no. And I said, well, why not? And then Elizabeth, whom I'd shown the artwork, and she said something to Horst. She was talking for a while to him. And then finally he turned around. His face was like, oh, she said something to him. Like
In German.
Probably, yeah, probably not getting any nookie for a week or something or whatever. He then turned around and said, okay, you can have that finish. But he did mention that finish was only available on a performer set, which was their lower costing drum set. It was their bottom of the line, really, if you like, but they were still extremely great. The original White Diamond, they called it White Diamond. The original White Diamond finish was just this glitter, but I wanted to put more greens and blues in it, so they did. But it's faded quite a bit. You can't really see it, but there's a lot of different greens and blues. And Karl Heinz, bless his heart, gave me a bunch of different swatches. And some were too much green, some were too much blue, some was a bit more too much red in it. So we finally settled on this, and they made this drum for me to go with the rest of the kit. But there was a proviso, and Horst turned around and said, "Please, would you put my signature logo badge on your drum set?" And I said, "Well, I don't play a signature kit. I played a straight beach 9-ply beach shell. This is metal, by the way. This is like a 402 Ludwig, which Ludwig modelled their snare drum on this very...
This was actually first.
This was first, back in the 30s.
Wow.
Sono were the first to come up with this particular shell, a ferrite manganese shell, which Ludwig quite copied. Anyway, that's another story. So I asked Horst why, and he said, "Well, because we want you to promote my signature line of drums, which the difference between the Phonic series, that they were just 9-ply beach all the way through, whereas the signatures were 12-ply with 2 layers or 3 layers of Bubinga." Anyway, so I said, okay, so that kit that I used is actually badged for a signature Bubinga kit, but it's actually not.
Wow. And it's a one of one then.
Yes.
Everything's a one of one. Because they
absolutely.
didn't do that finish on that line of drums.
No, they did not.
So it's kind of 3 lines of drums in one. Because it's a signature badge with the performer finish and a Bubinga kit.
Absolutely. It's an enhanced performance.
Right. Okay.
But
Enhanced, that's right.
You had
so
to...
it's really unique.
Yeah, you had
Still
to
have that kit?
Yeah, I still have it.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I wish I had my original Sona kit that I'd sold, but anyway, that's the story of this wonderful drum. It's not my signature drum, but it is...
comes later.
Yeah, that came later.
Right, so we're going to cover that in another episode. As you can see from the pictures, there's a lot of snare drums to talk about. This is a Sonar snare drum from 86.
86, 87, yeah.
Inspired the Superphonic, which of course has gone on to be one of the most iconic snare drums of all time, which we're going to talk about Nicko's Superphonic, because you are really diehard Superphonic.
Absolutely, yeah.
So here we are on our final segment, Wear, Tear, and Care, with, I'd say drum roll please, but there's 2 drummers here. Nicko. So what are we covering on today's segment?
We're going to cover the care side of it. This is just something that, I had a practice the other night with the Titanium Type Boys, and Jimmy, my drum tech, who helps me out, bless his heart, Jim McCall, he's a great player himself. He set my hi-hat stand up, and what I want to show you, this is how he set my hi-hat. So we screw this part into the thread down here, and it locks. That's as far as it will go, right? But he had set the clutch. So imagine you've got your hi-hat on the left side, which at the moment, the microphone's in the way, boys and girls. So the problem with having it here, this clutch with the screw section is if you want to play this side of the bill,
it's on the stick side.
It's on the stick side. So what I tend to do myself is I'll always leave it locked, but unscrew this, turn it round to the back side here, and then lock it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's away from,
your stick never
you've got much more room to play the bell of the hi-hat. And it's trivial, but that's my part. That's my care tip for you boys and girls. Stick it over. Well, obviously we got to, put the hi-hat down a little bit and lock it in.
Have you found that it'll stay there?
Yes.
So
it very rarely, sometimes it might see it doesn't want to actually, now it might creep like this, but all you've got to do is just turn around and put it back over there and lock it.
And it'll stay for.
And you don't want to over tighten this spindle into the screw down here because you don't want to strip it. And sometimes that can happen. Very rare,
this.
Yes.
Okay. So that screws up.
This one's been sawn off because normally you have to have it because I have it quite high.
Right. You use your hi-hat high, and this has to get sawed off because then you have toms over
the
it.
toms are coming.
So it would get in the way of it.
Yeah, so that's my care tip, boys and girls. There you go.
Wear, tear, and care. Nicko McBrain. Episode 1 has come to an end. We can't wait to see you guys next time, and we're very grateful that you tuned in this time because we love metal. This is where metal lives and metal sticks.
Absolutely.
Metal sticks.
Absolutely. I love it.
He's Nicko. I'm David. You're here with Modern Drummer. We'll see you again next time, guys.
Metal stick.